Hey everyone, I am Nathaniel Rumpeljans, and this is Prime News. So before we get into today's story, I do want to give an update on a story yesterday. I actually got something wrong. Yes, folks, it does happen. So I mentioned how the Nintendo Switch has not released in China, and well, it's true it hasn't released in the whole of China. It has released in Hong Kong. So the Nintendo Switch eShop that is releasing in China is just releasing in Hong Kong because you can buy a Switch in Hong Kong. So there you go. There you have it. They have some weird rules in China why it's not being sold anywhere else. But if you live in Hong Kong, in China, you can get your hands on a Nintendo Switch legally at a retailer. So there you have it. Nintendo technically is in China in one major city. Now, that being said, let's get into today's stories. Now, we only have 3 for you today. One of them is a huge doozy, and it's actually our lead story today. And that is that we finally know why third-party docks and other products, such as third-party cords, have been bricking Nintendo Switch systems. And in fact, we now know why the Nintendo Switch dock itself might actually fail and not be something that's going to survive long haul. And while my dock seems to be working, I now have to be concerned that I might be forced to have to buy more docks and more cords because Nintendo's solution is not actually built to last, which is surprising given that we're talking about Nintendo here. And what happened is this user named Nathan K. Yes, I know, I'm Nathan, no bias there, on Google Plus of all platforms, went ahead and did a whole bunch of engineering breakdowns and various tests of adapters and docks and voltages and actually touching things on the board and figuring things out about what is happening with the Switch itself, the Switch and the dock, when it comes to their USB-C ports. And it turns out that the Nintendo Switch isn't even remotely close to being USB-C compliant, as it overdraws some USB PD power supplies by 300%. This is insane. USB-C is already kind of a fickle platform in that of itself, but not being compliant with many things, and it just makes it worse. So I have a lot of notes down. We're just going to go through all this. This means that only Nintendo licensed products should ever be used to power your Switch. The only other wall charger technically that meets Nintendo's current power draw demands is the Energy version 2.0. Despite it being a few years old, it actually works to its advantage as it offers a power draw outside of the standard levels that are now set in stone with USB-C. Technically, Energy is built to spec with current USB-C standards, but it did include a 15-volt and 5-volt option as an extra in its second version. And that's exactly what the Nintendo Switch needs to fully function properly. The standard voltage levels, for those who don't know, for USB-C are 5, 12, and 20. Switch falls completely outside of those specs. It only will take Energy on the 5-volt and 15-volt rails. Hence, if you absolutely do want to go third-party for a wall outlet charger, this is the one that falls in line with the same spec of Nintendo's own wall-branded charger, and I will include a link down in the description for you to purchase that if you feel like it is a better deal. Unfortunately, beyond that one single charger, the dock and Switch itself are breaking a ton of USB-C protocols, including the fact that it only accepts power through the 5 and 15 volt rails, which is apparently a terrible thing for future-proofing of the platform itself. It also has some technical things going on inside of it that cancel each other out for really no reason. Apparently, the chipset inside the dock itself is not very good, and while things do work, they are working in spite of itself, and it's faulty, which is likely why some have experienced their docks just stop working. They're not bricking your Switch, but the docks themselves are not actually built to last. They're going to wear down and eventually error out over time. Switch includes no indicator light, by the way, that is required by the standards to indicate that a power issue is occurring at all. This isn't just a troubleshooting mechanism for people looking to fix the problem. It's also for the safety of users who may have a power issue but just leave their dock sitting there with the Switch plugged in anyways, not knowing that anything is wrong. There's a lot more technical details you can find out at the link in the description. A lot of various details to go through, but essentially it sounds like the Switch itself has less issues inside of it than the dock itself, but Nintendo's dock is not good at all. A lot of people have argued, I guess, over time here that the dock is high quality and we trust it because it's a Nintendo. And absolutely, you can trust it because the official dock will not brick your Switch. But the official dock itself is not built to last. It is fighting against itself on the board, and while it's doing that, it's only just working. And yes, it's overloading and failing out itself. And the Switch's weird power draws are not good for the future. It also indicates that the board inside the Switch could eventually get fried. All of the issues that we have heard with Switch, from battery expansion to bend gate to screens getting dead pixels, which again that happens from naturally anyways in some cases, to docks dying and all this stuff, and now bricking of Switches is all explained because of this. This isn't because Nintendo is trying to do something to make everything exclusive to themselves. It's probably because they're cheaping out in manufacturing and going with non-standard parts because it's cheaper to do this. So it is what it is. I don't know what else to tell you guys. You guys let me know what you think about it down in the description below. Our second story today is actually a nice positive story for Switch, and that deals with the 4 million units being sold in Japan. That's right. We talked yesterday about the Media Create sales, but what I didn't know at the time is that Switch had actually surpassed the 4 million mark in Japan as of last week. And while that is extremely impressive, it is technically now fallen behind the pace of Wii in Japan. The Wii sold 12.75 million units total, and it hit 4 million units in just 54 weeks, whereas it took Switch 56 weeks. Now, there hasn't been a gluttony of major releases early in this year, so this might not indicate anything. We know 3DS is up now around the 24 million mark, so it's obviously well off the pace of 3DS. But again, we haven't got our Pokemons yet. We haven't gotten a brand new Monster Hunter game yet, or Yokai Watch, or any of the big games that make portables sell well in Japan, really besides Splatoon 2, which is very popular in Japan. So I think it's one of those things at this point where we can't really judge the fact that it's fallen slightly behind Wii, which, by the way, sold really well in Japan. I think we need to just lower our expectations a little bit if we think the Switch is going to be the best-selling platform ever in Japan until it starts to get the games that Japanese gamers are massively excited about, Pokemon being one of the big drivers in Japan. Beyond that, our last story of the day actually deals with Rocket League. So on April 3rd, Rocket League is getting a brand new update. We've actually known this for a little bit, but the devs decided to detail things today. And they are adding options for quality and performance mode. Performance mode is essentially the exact same as the game is today, which is a rock-solid, locked 60 FPS, but with a dynamic resolution scaler. Quality mode is actually 1080p docked and 720p handheld. No distinction. It sticks at those resolutions, but it only runs at a locked 30 FPS. It also contains certain things like lens flare and light shafts turned on by default. So there you go. It's basically maxing out what Rocket League can do, but lowering the frame rate to make it happen. Some people might prefer this because while 60 FPS creates a smoother gameplay experience, higher resolution actually enables you to see things that are further distance more clearly, and that can also help in matches as well. So it's one of those things where neither of them are ideal, but you know what? For Switch, it's about as good as Rocket League's going to get. They're also adding support, interestingly, for Switch's video capture capability, where you press the capture button, hold it down, and you record the last 30 seconds of gameplay that some Nintendo Switch games include. Well, Rocket League's adding that as well on April 3rd. Again, hold down the button, 30 seconds. Great stuff. Anyways, it's going to be a short Prime news today, but you know what? That's okay. I have a lot of stuff happening today, parent-teacher conferences and all this jazz. Another video I'm working on actually dealing with the history of voice chat with Nintendo. I hope you look forward to that video that I hope to get out at some point tonight. And we have a podcast to record later this evening. So things are getting crazy up here at Nintendo Prime, but we are back. We are in our full gear, making things happen. Like our video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. Subscribe for more content. Hit that bell icon so you get notifications of every video and every live stream we do. Otherwise, folks, I will just catch you guys in the next one.